Welcome in for another episode of the Inside Bassmaster Podcast. I'm your host today, Ronnie Moore. My co-host, like always, Kyle Jessie, joining me from Birmingham. And Kyle, we just wrapped up the 2025 Bassmaster Elite Series season. We still have a few more events to go. We've got 3 EQ events. We have the College Classic Bracket. We have the Nation and Team Championships as well. And those will decide the last few Classic spots of the year and qualifiers for the Elite Series next year. And so a lot to cover if we're thinking about a season-ending synopsis of the year. But I thought my first takeaway of the 2025 season was the amount of fear coming into the season about the dominance of forward-facing sonar. And I would say it was pretty balanced and diverse. I loved the way our schedule was this year. And then I love, the variety of winners, young and old, and styles that they won. I thought that it was pretty balanced given some of the lakes that we went to. Obviously, we'll get into this in just a minute, but changes made for next year. We already, if we just took a look at the schedule, a very balanced schedule, but we'll get into that. But takeaway is there was a ton of fear coming out of the 2023 season that it was so dominant at the end of the year with smallmouth. What do we do? So we restricted to one unit or one transducer. Can't have a million graphs on your boat, limited it by size, and then made the schedule diverse. Then out of this year, still more complaining by folks at times. And then some people thought it was a good level for the most part. We do another adjustment for next year. And so we'll get into that adjustment. But I thought overall it was pretty balanced.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think you and I have talked about it on the podcast before, but really we're talking about a relatively small sample size, with Elite Series competition using it. Obviously, we've had it for more years than it's been a problem in the public's eyes, I guess. But like you said, the 2023 season I think was a really telling one where you finished the season 3 straight smallmouth tournaments. Naturally, we know how powerful forward-facing sonar is in those smallmouth events, especially when you're talking about St. Clair, maybe the forward-facing sonar lake in the country, followed by a Champlain where largemouth didn't play as much, a lot of suspended smallmouth chasing bait, and then obviously we know what it will do at the St. Lawrence River every time we go. And it seemed like that was where the biggest uproar, was held was at the end of the 23 season. 24 season, obviously the schedule had already been announced before that even happened or shortly thereafter. It was already put together, whether it had been
Yeah,
announced or
these
not.
things happen months in advance. Yeah.
So there was really no way to predict that in a way. And then this year, like you said, there was a lot of talk about scheduling. I think a lot of anglers were in favor of like keeping it and making the schedule play out to where there's events where it's not going to play as much. And then there was the other side of it where some guys felt like no matter where we're going to go, it's going to play. And I think you can still make an argument, to some degree for both of those things. But when you look at this season with 4 of the 9 Elite Series anglers or Elite Series winners using without it. Yeah, certainly a diverse schedule, and I think that it did help. I don't think you can make any argument against it, other than, I've heard so many people say, well, the 10 killer tournament, we got lucky on that one because of, whatever. But that goes back to the sample size. You're going to have those kind of things happen in competition because you can't predict exactly what's going to happen at every single tournament. I mean, if you play fantasy fishing, that's correct because it's very, very difficult to predict how each tournament's going to play out.
You should have
You can
saw
make
my
the exact
nine, my full roster on Drain the Lake of scopers at 10 killer. and,
exactly,
and then it
exactly.
goes into a bush flipping deal.
Exactly. I mean, then you could use the same example the opposite way with like a Lake Okeechobee. Obviously a lot of those guys fishing there were Polinick and Will Davis, Greg DePalma, a lot of those guys fishing in that area were using it, but I think the entire field as a whole probably not using it as much as other bodies of water. So again, when you look at it as a whole, I think that there were a lot of successes this year from a standpoint of being diverse and the schedule allowed that to happen. And as you mentioned, new changes coming for this year, which will enforce the diversity even more.
Yeah, so if you watch the forward-facing sonar coin flip show to determine it, so they said, talking with the anglers and whatnot, it's like a multiple vote process. And so when you hear, well, 70% wanted, there's different votes that happened. You take 100% of the field and you have a vote of, do we do nothing or do you want something done? And when you have 70% that say they want something done, you then repoll them with a couple options of what to do, and you get a gauge of that. There was not an overwhelming majority. Normally, things in civilized manners take 2/3 vote to pass, and uh, a lot of those votes were so close that it was kind of negligible. It's like half or here, half or here. Um, but looking at it, we've got the Elite Series schedule. You've got the Lake Gunnersville, Lake Martin back to back in Alabama. I'm reading it off my trusty paper. Don't look there. There's some more. There's some more info on all these sheets. Hold on, I can't hold it up, Kyle. For later in the show, we do have a couple different things to cover in this episode. But Gunnersville, Lake Martin, those are in Alabama to start with. The Classic that's untouched. Knoxville. Then we have the Tennessee Tom Bigby Waterway, Arkansas River. And then we have Murray and Santee Cooper, Pasquotank River, Champlain, and then the St. Lawrence River to end it. So it will be no forward facing sonar for Lake Gunnersville. It will be for Lake Martin, just based off the coin flip. And the way they did that was they paired two lakes together, obviously 2, 4, 6, 8. So the last lake had to be a flip specifically for that one. And so it was basically whichever side the coin lands on. Um, it would be one or another, and we would get that for the first 4 matchups. So you may have 2 in a row with forward facing. I don't think we have 2 in a row without it, but it's still 50-50 once we get through 8 events. So no forward facing on Lake Gunnersville. Yes, forward facing on Lake Martin. No forward facing Tennessee Tom Bigby. Yes for the Arkansas River. Yes for Lake Murray. No for Santee Cooper. Yes for the Pasquotank. No for Champlain, and yes for the St. Lawrence River. And so on the episode, Zona, Davey, Tommy were asking guest anglers, now what's your hope or what's your thought for these? And the first few times they said it, it landed the way they wanted, and they were like, someone's going to think it's rigged, but it's literally just a flip of a coin based on, and someone's going to have a 50-50, choice or bias. But when you look at it, the first thing that I thought was the Santee Cooper event was intriguing to me. Obviously, we know Gunnersville's great with or without. Santee Cooper could be great, but also Santee is in mid to late May, I think. That's the time period. We're normally there, in the March, April time period. So it's later in the year, and without it, I'm interested to see how that lake plays. And then the other takeaway from the coin flip deal was my preference and my bias was at least have one of the Champlain St. Lawrence be non-forward facing. If we're gonna have to do this, which I was, my personal favorite would be, I thought this year was pretty equitable with what we had done with the schedule with Tennessee Tom Bigby, Arkansas River, Pasquotank in June, Santee there, I thought that was a pretty equitable, even schedule as well. So I didn't think anything needed to be done. But if we have to do this coin flip thing, then my thought was at least one of the Champlain or St. Lawrence River needed to not be forward facing sonar, because there was a chance and there was a risk, Kyle, that it could land and be no forward facing for Pasquotank, yes for the Champlain, and then you get to St. Lawrence and you flip for that and it could be yes there. And so that was my fear, was we're going to be in the same situation as we always are, ending on 2 smallmouth fisheries with forward facing, even with these changes. Whether it's fair or not, if you wanted change, that wouldn't have given change. And so I'm glad that at least it did, to say we did change, for the sake of saying change.
And I do think that to that point, I mean, Champlain, of those 2 events, I feel like there's so much more opportunity. Not like you can't, like what I'm about to say, it's not like you can't fish either of those bodies of water without it. But Champlain gives you so many more different opportunities, depending on water level and how the largemouth are playing, to do, different things. Obviously, we've seen guys like Brandon Polnick win at Champlain using his 2D and, very traditional style of fishing, without forward facing sonar. So guys will still be able to do that. I mean, they'll still be able to fish offshore for smallmouth and do things similar to what we saw Polnick did. But also, I mean, we've seen Schmidt and other guys also factor in largemouth, which they talked about it a lot on the coin flip show, but you'd have to think that's going to be even more prevalent with the non-forward facing sonar for Champlain. But like I said, I think that works out well for the sake of, that lake provides so many different opportunities for the anglers. But one thing I want to go back on that you said here, you talked about Santee Cooper and Murray. When I believe it was John Cruz was on the show during that time, and he had suggested that more people would use it at Santee versus Murray,
Yeah.
which Davey, I think, was kind of the opposite, kind of expected the opposite. And frankly, I kind of expected the opposite too, which was interesting to hear. And obviously, it worked out to where, Santee Cooper is going to be without it and Murray will be with it. But I did think that was interesting to hear because even during herring
And
spawn,
I can understand that.
yeah,
And I can explain as well my understanding of that. Yeah.
but I just think Murray being the way that it is at that time of the year, I think there would still be guys using it. I think pretty much inevitably. I mean, when you're getting into that tail end of the spawn, herring spawn, that kind of thing, chasing those fish offshore, a lot of times, when you look at Walter's win, I think I covered him on the water all 4 days, and I mean, a lot of the fish he was catching were just schooling. I
Yeah,
don't know
you
that
didn't
he
need
called
it. Yeah,
him.
he might have
Yeah,
seen
I
them.
don't.
You can see
Correct.
them getting ready. I mean, I've made timed casts with a topwater where you're seeing hybrids about to come up and you can land as they're coming up and then you do it. But yeah,
100%.
his were that. And I think that's why that makes sense with John Cruz's point that you could at least see half of everyone's day be used with traditional blatant spots where fish school or
Sure.
herring group up. And then when it gets tough and it's no longer happening or boat traffic or whatever, you could then go to the underwater, herring spawn, schooling aspects when they pull off. And so I could see that being the reason. Whereas at Santee Cooper, you're throwing at a tree, whether it's March or May, it's just, are you looking at a fish on a tree or are you just fishing trees? And so I think that's, and then also with all the grass that Santee will have. But you can continue your point. But yeah, I mean that makes sense to me is they're going to be here and there at Murray, but at Santee they're probably going to be here all the time. It's just which trees, and you won't know as easily.
And then I think the other matchup, obviously you hit on Gunnersville not having forward facing sonar. I think that was one of the most pivotal tournaments in the year as far as like you want to talk about like split as far as like a lot of guys probably not wanting it there and a lot of guys really wanting it there.
Locals not wanting it there
Any
for sure.
yes. Anybody that's paid attention to the weights at Gunnersville and local tournaments, semi-level whatever. I mean, literally everything out of Gunnersville, over the last year or so has been just incredible weights. And I think, not think a lot of that damage has been done using forward-facing sonar, fishing maybe deeper, different places that guys maybe didn't fish pre-spawn springtime, pre-forward-facing sonar. I think that there's an argument to be made for both. I think not having it will provide us, styles of fishing that are going to be more traditional, old school, if that's what you want to call it. But I do think like you might see a difference in weights there. Like, I don't know how drastic it'll be. We'll never really know, other than like maybe if there's a local tournament or something we can compare it to. But it does seem like the weights would have been just ridiculous if we had it. So that was the only one that I was like, I'm
And
completely and do
that's what I
not
don't
care either
like
way.
about
But
this. Like it's going to give us a warm fuzzy feeling to see them aimlessly throwing. I it's like basketball. They talk about ethical hoopers, guys who shoot 12 shots and have 28 points, and they do it the right way. They're not foul baiting. They're not drawing fouls a funny way. In the moment, you admire ethical hoopers, but in 15 years, I'm going to look at James Harden's 2018 season when he scored 40 points a game, and I'm not going to remember the narrative that year. We're going to look back at Gunnersville, and no one's going to say, what an ethical tournament that took 90 pounds to win. It's going to be Gunnersville in February. It didn't take 120 pounds to win with what we know technology. And we'll have to remember that it wasn't a part of that for that event because, like you said, it's going to be one of the best weight tournaments with or without forward facing sonar.
Sure. Either way.
But
Either way.
with it, it will actually give us the nostalgia of the first time we had a national tournament at Guntersville when it was unpressured and untapped when we first did that. Or it'll give you those vibes because it's going to be incredible. But yes, it'll be little harder, a little more difficult, challenging there. But yes, I'll say that for all the ethical anglers, if we want to talk about ethical hoopers, all the ethical anglers are going to be like, I'm so glad we didn't hit 100 pounds with Guntersville, and it was such a fun 90-pound tournament. Dude, it could be 120 pounds with,
Sure.
and so it's like, what are we wanting to see? And so I understand. I get it. I will enjoy watching them catch them on a frog, catching them on a lipless, catch them on a chatterbait. I enjoy it all. And there's nobody who watches more live fishing than me and Tommy in studio here. Guests changing, and we are here for every single one of them. So we see it all, and I enjoy it all. But yes, it will be later in the history books to be like, we better talk swimmingly that Guntersville wasn't, man, was that a down year for Guntersville? No, Guntersville was about to pop off. We just limited ourselves.
And I want to say this too, and I don't know that I'll present this the way that I want it to be presented, but like I want to say like this is all such a challenging time in a lot of ways. I mean, like just to make decisions of any sort for the organization, I'm just speaking this again objectively, like as like seeing this behind the scenes. Like there is to my in my lifetime at least, there's never been a more split, like basically right down the middle thing that has divided, opinions. It's not like they're like ready to fist fight in the parking lot
Other than
or
the
fishing
split,
sonar.
the actual
But
split.
sure. But I mean, it's one of those deals where you can understand over the course of the last 5 years, or maybe even less than that, there being a strong dislike, disdain. I don't know, just not necessarily like in love with forward-facing sonar,
Just
but
change for sure.
yeah, 100%. But then I think I see the flip side of it now, like doing the change that we made. It's like the young guys or the guys that are really good with it, don't have to be young, like anybody that has mastered the use of that technology, like they have the right to like have opinions now too. Like because we've listened to like all these things for several years. Like you kind of have to understand where any again, guy that's really good with forward facing sonar would be upset with this change because they have, put so much time and effort into becoming good at it
Patch
to where they
Slapper. That's we'll
100%.
talk about that in just a couple minutes, but he'll be one I'll talk about.
Yeah, but it is just such a overall just a weird, challenging, strange time, I think, in a lot of ways because of that. But I do think like that was kind of my general thought, when we made
It's
the
like
announcement. And then I think once we got to the coin flip show, I don't know. I hope that this is kind of the general thought. I don't, or feeling. I really don't know. But I feel like that kind of made me buy in 100% to like, let's just give it a go. Like, there's been enough people, enough anglers, fans, whatever it might be, that have wanted something, some sort of change to where we're at least providing a pretty much split schedule for 2026 where you have it, don't have it. And I think the storylines that come with that are going to be super entertaining to watch. I do firmly believe that, the guys that we want to, label as super scopers that can't do anything else, I think there's going to be a pretty good showing from those guys. Let's just put it that way. I don't think that that's going to be as drastic of a fall off as some people want to believe. Could be wrong, but and I do think that you'll see some anglers that have had tough years come back strong without it. So
I
I
think
do
that you
think the
can.
storylines they're going to be fun to watch, and I like I said, it's just a very like unique, odd time to where there's literally no decision that would make everybody happy. Like how many people do you hear talk about this topic and be like, you have to do this or you have to do that? Well, like that's based on your standpoint and your point of view.
It's all bias and preference for
Everybody
sure.
has,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. So it's like it's just I don't know, just a weird time,
And you
but
never want the
I'm
wrong
very
decision. We
excited.
just don't know what the correct decision is. You
Yeah,
like listen
100%.
to
Yeah,
I said
it's
this,
difficult.
you had a lot of people complaining, or at least a small group that complained everywhere, and then you change it and do half and half, but it doesn't fully suffice their complaint. But now you've disgruntled people who weren't commenting negative things and were just enjoying the process. And now you've kind of made them a little more uncomfortable without fully sufficing the others. So it's only creating a little bit more just frustration amongst both parties now. And I
Yeah,
saw that
sure.
on social media, even elite anglers, guys who are sleepy according to people and who don't have opinions and are quiet, are sharing their opinions. And it's like, I understand. And I
Yeah,
will
no,
say, we
you
have
have to
nine.
accept that side of it too, though. I mean, you really
Oh,
do,
yeah.
because that's like,
You took the
you know,
guy who was, it's literally like you go to a wedding and they only ask for if anyone objects for them to get married. You're only asking for the negative to speak up. But if you said, is anyone for it? Everyone raises their hand. Is anyone against it? We always, I guess, not respect, but we always are ushering in. If you have a complaint, please speak up. A church motion. I'm a part of business meetings at church, and it's like anybody, a motion to pass, motion. Uh, Anyone opposed? Motion passes. But like you have to give them the opportunity to step up and speak. But it's always like, do you appreciate the voice if it's not half the room? Do you appreciate the voice if it is half the room? You always have to appreciate the voice. But I will say
and
this: we
I
have.
do.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was going to say we have 5 events with forward facing allowed, 4 events where it's restricted and not allowed. But of those 5 events, the Arkansas River is an event that it is allowed that we probably won't see a factor. So it's much more down the line, even if we were thinking of including the classic and you have 10. Well, there's 6 forward facing and 4 not. One of those forward facing, like we were flipping for Tennessee Tom Baby and Arkansas River, and I was like, this is literally the most pointless coin flip because neither one is
Drew
probably going to
Benton,
be one that either
which
one.
one do you want to have it and which one not? What
Doesn't
I wanted
matter.
to say was I don't think it matters.
It's the same fishery in 2 different states. But so it's one of those things of like, yeah, and then there'll be moments where it's allowed on a fishery or it's not allowed on a fishery where it wouldn't have been a factor anyways. And we'll get into that, other things. But
The
it
one,
will make the Champlain St. Lawrence back to back not seem as burn your eyes out if you're not a fan of it.
yeah, no, I'm with you. And the last thing I'll say on the point that we were talking about too is like I want to be clear, like when we use like I think one of the terms we use probably maybe more than we should is like complaining. Like I mean, maybe it comes off that way a lot of times from certain parties and
Voicing disdain.
but like at the end of the day, like you have to realize, like for all the people that get mad at people having an opinion, whether it be for, against, somewhere in the middle, whatever it is, like at least for the anglers, like this is their career. Like they have every right in the world to be passionate about however they feel about it. Like I said, I just think that like overall, you just have to understand that like it's not like everybody believes the same thing. Like that's so far from accurate. Like it's so split as far as who, wants it to stay the same, who, like I just think that, we have to understand that like not everybody is going to agree on this, no matter what the decision was going to be made.
Yeah, and I will say the only thing that does draw not questions, but like the voting polling process is you were an Elite Series angler until you're not type of deal. When votes are made, knowing that 10 or 12 anglers won't be on the elites, you still have to poll them because they could be on the elites and they have been on the elites. But I almost feel like you need to poll 10, 5 in each division of the opens. They're not in the elites, but here's our representation of the next group coming in because 10 anglers, you take 10. What if
10%.
just if you take 10% of the field's opinions, you could be taking 5 for it, 5 against it out of the vote, and it's negligible. It's the same. You could take 10 against it out. You could take 10 bringing them in, and it'd be 4. You can weight it. It would be weighted. So if you're going to, I feel going forward, if I was commissioner, like Josh Pate does for college football, if I was commissioner, it would be like you have your 89 Elite Series anglers in good standing. You have your 10 or 12 that are on the way out if nothing changes. They get to vote as well. And then you have a sample of 10 that would be coming in or could be coming in to do that as well, just to get your gauge of not only your current clientele, your past clientele, and your future clientele. You're getting all of those. But yeah, no, I think it's gonna be good. I like the schedule. I thought
Me
Eric
too.
did a great job. Um, I like Tennessee Tom Bigby and I like Arkansas River because if you want to throw in tough rivers, it doesn't always have to be Sabine. Like, oh, we need a tough one. Sabine. It doesn't always need to be Sabine. It could be, we got a couple other grimy ones. I would love to have a Little Rock tournament right out here. Would love to have a Little Rock tournament. Still one of the most memorable, compelling, almost getting locked out, Denny Brower winning, Aaron Martin staying close tournament we've had. I would love to see that, but we'll keep an eye on future tough venues that we bring in here. But I did think that was good. So, well, Kyle, that brings us to another talking point about the Elite Series from this year that's got some historical implications, and it's part of our Yeti question of the day. So you ready? Wait for it. I'm going to give you the question. I'm going to talk about Yeti, and then I'm going to give you a chance to answer. But since the split, since we're talking about splits, since the split, so 2019 season to now, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full seasons since the split. What year, this is the Yeti question of the day, what year did we not have a dual winner, someone winning 2 events of our 10 major tournaments? 9 elites in the classic, 10 events. Every year, someone has won 2 of those, except 1 year. What was the year? Think about it. While I talk about the Yeti Ranchero backpack, we've had Kyle on here showing it off in the past as well. It is the brand new on-the-go easy access Ranchero backpack. It's the latest to join Yeti's lineup. Obviously, we know they have more and more coming out, especially that came out at ICAST this past year. But this is the tough as nails one. That's no more digging through your bag. The quick zip, cutting edge, rip zip opening allows you to tear the bag open without having to go from top to bottom. If you have something that you packed first in your bag, no problem. You don't have to unload the whole thing. You can get to it from the main zipper. You can check it out on Yeti.com or a Yeti retail store near you. Kyle, Yeti question of the day. From 2019 to now, 7 seasons, which season did someone not win 2 of our major 10 events?
So I'm going to take a shot in the dark here because I can think back the last 3 seasons, including this one being Cifuentes in 23, Corey Johnson in 24, Pat Slapper in 25. 22 is the year that I'm thinking because I don't have a great feel for it. So I'm going to say 2022.
So close. You needed to go one more year. 2021. Okay, so 2019, we had Jamie Hartman and Brandon Cobb win 2 events. So they both doubled up. 2020, Brandon Polnick won at Santee Cooper and Lake Champlain.
Yep.
2021, we had 10 different winners for our 9 elites in the Classic. 2022, we had Jason Christie win the Classic and then Chickamauga. So he was the one. That was the one weird year.
I
Every
don't
other
remember
year,
you saying the classic was included.
I just said our 10 major events. How many Elite Series
Roll the
events are there
tape.
per year? How many Elite
Roll the
Series?
tape. I heard 9 Elite Series tournaments is what
Well,
I heard.
I have the editing ability that I will actually put it in right now. Ronnie is rolling the tape right now. Replay. Kyle, Yeti question of the day. From 2019 to now, 7 seasons. Which season did someone not win 2 of our major 10 events? But yes, I included the Classic in there because otherwise 2019, 20, 23, 24, 25 are all dual elite winners. But Christie was a Classic and elite winner. And then 21, we had 10 different winners. So that is the interesting thing. And that brings me to Pat Schlapper. We were talking about it earlier. Anglers who invested the time to get better at their weaknesses. Pat Schlapper mentioned it. He said, I could be one of the guys. He posted about it. I could be one of the guys in 2023 complaining about the technology, or I could just get better at it. So he spent the offseason of 2023 getting better at it. He almost wins the first event at Toledo Bend to start 2024, goes into a little bit of a skid there. He would probably say a lot of bit of a skid. And then we come to 2025, started the year in a skid, picks it up mid-season, starts to have some good finishes, wins the Sabine River, fishing the way he knows how. He knows how to fish every way, but fishing the way you would traditionally expect a Wisconsin angler from river fisheries to fish. At the Sabine, he wins that, and then goes to
Sabine, as he
at the
says.
the Sabine.
Sabine.
and then goes to pool 7. And he did utilize 2 key fish in pool 8 on the final day to win the lacrosse event. And so it's very cool to see a guy dedicate time to something his weakness. Kyle Welcher did the same thing, turns around and wins Angler of the Year. Committing time to fix a weakness, then seemingly forgetting how to be consistent again, but then regaining it and now getting rewarded by fishing his traditional way and strengths. And so it's been a big year for Pat Schlapper. Huge end of the season. I mean, he was 89th after Hartwell or something like that. 89th after Fork or Hartwell. And then wins, gets a top 20, I think gets another top 20, and then wins again. So huge end of the year to make, to make the classic and have 2 Elite Series titles. So kudos to him. And like I said, uh, I didn't even give credit. I said Christie won the classic and an elite. Like you said, Joey, Corey, and Schlapper are our 3 most recent double winners.
I dig it. No, that's a great point. And I think one of the the things that kind of does suck about making the announcement for 2026 when we did is like I feel like we haven't had enough time to really appreciate, all the intricacies of the 25 season. The Winner Circle video just released. You
Yep.
guys absolutely killed it on that.
I think it'll be it's going to go up on YouTube in like a week or 2. I'm just
Nice.
waiting for this first EQ and the college bracket to get out of the way uh to let it actually like marinate and do well. So we'll keep an eye on that.
Well, definitely keep an eye out on YouTube. I know it is on Bassmaster.com if you want a sneak peek of it right now. I started watching it yesterday, just out of curiosity. I've watched every one, but and I couldn't stop watching. That's how good it was. I literally watched until the day ended. So
It's
certainly
Moneyball. We know they don't win, but you just got to watch it again.
100% worth the watch. Definitely a great recap on that. And I don't even know that we've had the opportunity to talk about it on the podcast necessarily, but the Angler of the Year race, I mean, the way that that played out, the final few events was just unbelievable. It'd be hard to imagine we'll have anything like that ever happen again in the sense of the tie going into the final event. Each day of the tournament seemingly like giving each other a chance. Trey McKinney barely based on a tiebreaker making the final or making Saturday and then making the surge on Saturday where it looks like Chris is struggling bad. I mean, like every bit of that
Catches
Angler
one
of the Year
late,
race,
yeah.
it was just unbelievable. Like I feel
We'll
like
have
we
closer races than 8 points, but to know that it was a pound, like
sure.
that's, it was 8 points, but when we think about it, it was tied and it's going down to it and it was a pound or so. That's crazy.
And then you look back on the season in general, and you could say this for both guys. You could say this for all 100, plus anglers in the field. But, Trey McKinney has a better day at St. John's River and catches his limit and probably wins like going away.
Yeah.
Like
Or
just,
Chris turns those 5 top 15s into tenths going in the final
yes,
day, and he
100%.
moves up to 7th. That's 15 extra points, just moving up a few inconsequential spots over
We
a course of a season.
we talked about it a lot on the halftime show with Davey at in lacrosse, but those are the kind of things like I just think as a fan and as an angler, like you just look back at the season and all those little small decisions, small little things that made, at the time, every time, Chris Johnson leaves a tournament and he finished 11th, he's probably like, sweet, 11th place, that's a great finish. Like, of course, as a competitor, you want to make the final day, all those things. But nobody leaves a tournament like, mad, like furious that you didn't make, that you didn't do one spot better. It's like that's a great tournament. Like anybody in the field for the most part would take an 11th
I
place finish before.
maximized without having to go a 4th day.
Yeah, like you leave that tournament and you're happy, and then you come to the last tournament and you're like, man, had I made the cut on any of those and just moved up 4 or 5 places, any of those certain tournaments, like you said, he was in the teens or in 11th place, and it's like all those things build towards the end of the season where it makes you think like every single day of the Elite Series season is important for every single guy fishing. And like you might not see it during the first term of the year or the second term of the year. Like Trey McKinney struggles at the first term of the year, and you're not looking at it like, well, that's just gonna kill him. Like that's gonna like put him out of everything. Like he's so good. We knew he was gonna make a comeback and likely still make the classic, do all those things. but that one bad day is possibly what keeps him from winning the Angler of the Year title 8 months later, or how many ever months later.
Well,
It's crazy.
and you think about Jay Shakurit, loses AOY, he gets fourth and he's 28 points. He had 5 ounces determine him missing the top 50 cut in two of the last three events.
Yep.
If he slides into 50th and gains 10 points each day, he finishes 40th or whatever, that's your 20 something points to put pressure on him because he caught him at the lacrosse. He caught
No
him,
doubt.
top 10. So
Yeah.
it's the same type of thing that Brandon Lester did. He got a top 10. So did Chris Johnston, final event of the season in 2022, and pushed Brandon Palaniuk, made him have to catch him.
Yeah.
And so that's crazy. But we talk about some anglers really making big momentum swinging deals. Chris Johnston was 18th in points in 2023, but otherwise, Kyle, he's won back to back, and he got third in 2022. So he's gotten, obviously, if we went all the way back, it's still ridiculous, but third, 18th, first. Like, so he could have almost won 3 out of the last 4, which is crazy. So, yeah, kudos to the way that battle played out, and we did our best to tiptoe in, and no one seemingly understands it. I don't understand how no one understands what I'm trying to say with this lacrosse thing. I love that lacrosse was our final event. I love that fishery. I would love to have an elite there where we don't have all the other races because I want as many cameras in the tight weight event as possible. Uh, and having an AOI championship afterward would suffice that because we're sitting here keeping the talk is about AOI and they're in the 20s in the tournament. They're in the 30s in the tournament. They're not factoring to win this. I would love to see another guy in the top 10 have a camera, but we got to cover Angler of the Year. And so we do all the way through day 3, and it was a great story and it played out well. And it did give us multiple races to talk about, but I was like,
The
I'm not hating on the last event, lacrosse. I love it so much. I want to see more of it. And I want to see the best guys there.
the
And
flip
when we do
side
AOY, they're not necessarily the best at times.
The flip side of that, though, is that it is like, in my mind, it is the perfect place to have the final event for the sake of Angler of the
Oh,
Year,
the
Rookie of the Year
tightness. Yeah,
Classic.
those
I mean,
last
it's
two
just
events were nuts with
crazy.
yeah.
Like we talked about that a decent bit on livecast and halftime, but like it is in my mind like the perfect place to have the final one because like one singular fish can move you so far up in the standings or one critical decision to where like how many guys like in the for the classic qualification line had good events and like were seemingly like I wouldn't say out of it but like maybe you would suspect wouldn't be able to climb it and were able to jump inside the classic qualification just because of a good event. It is the perfect place to end the season as far as I'm concerned, but I definitely see what you're saying because you have
I
to
want to
spread
I
the
want to watch.
camera
I just want to
out.
watch that more. Yeah, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
but
I
then I
get it.
always said we have to keep our eyes on something else. Um. Well, Kyle, that brings us to the last portion of our deal. We're going to talk Bassmaster Opens, the St. Croix Bassmaster Opens for 2026. Uh-oh, I didn't say 2025. We are going to talk about that, the last 3 EQ events, um, shortly. But 2026 Bassmaster Opens schedule announcement. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I didn't write down the dates. I didn't get the email. This was literally a confidential video sent to us, or not sent to us. We were part of a call, a live call, and I cheated and I wrote it down. I don't know if I was supposed to, but I wrote it down just to know. Um, so Hank, if you're watching this, no, I'm just kidding. You told us to do the podcast. So, 2 divisions, 4 events in each division. Let's go over some of the changes there first, okay? So keep me straight on this, but we still have 2 divisions. We have 4 events in each division. I believe they are bringing back the overall EQ, like Angler of the Year type deal.
Right.
And there will be, because there will be a release, a deal posted that has the full details. So we have the breaking news, Cliff Notes, but the full details will be in the release. But a certain amount from the overall standings will make the EQs, and then we will take 50 from each division above and beyond that. So probably about 130 anglers guaranteed in the EQs for those 3 events. And so that's the way the qualification will be. I think also tossing around winning in, not just for the classic, but winning in for the EQs. Cherry picking's gone, Kyle. You cannot fish, you can fish one open, but if you sign up for the first open and you win it, you cannot get in the rest of the opens. You have to already be a deposit paid for all of them to get the opportunity to make that classic. So a little bit tighter there. Still two divisions, four events in each division. I believe three EQ events as well in the fall. That same type of structure. So fully vetting out and definitely giving winners opportunities, giving good points opportunities as well. Um, let's just go into Division One and Division Two. Okay, so for Division One, chronologically, these are the first, third, fifth, and eighth events of the year. This year we kind of had a heavy weighted. The Division One was the first event, and then they were like the last three events of the year almost. Like they just had a huge gap from first event to second event. And meanwhile, the other events had like all of them meshed in between, and then they had the last event. So first, third, fifth, and eighth events overall. Division Two has two, four, six, seven for their events. So spaced out decently on the calendar as well. We've got Lake Toho. We've got, which is the Kissimmee chain, Lake Toho Kissimmee chain. You got Eufaula, Alabama. You've got Lake Norman, and you've got Lake Erie out of Buffalo. So those are the four events for Division One. Kissimmee chain, which is Lake Toho, Lake Kissimmee, Hatchinahaw, Cypress, all those lakes. You've got Lake Eufaula in Alabama. You've got Lake Norman in North Carolina, and you have Lake Erie out of Buffalo, New York. Then Division Two, Kyle, Sam Rayburn, Grand Lake, Pickwick, and the Mississippi River out of La Crosse. So Rayburn in Texas, Grand Lake, Oklahoma, Pickwick out of Tennessee, but we obviously know that stretches into Mississippi and Alabama as well, and then the Mississippi River out of La Crosse. So
I
if
can
you
even go
love
one
the
step further and
if you
give you
love
dates if you want them.
if you want to do dates, okay,
I can give you some
give me
dates. So
more.
let's start Division One, assuming this is going out after we actually announce the schedule, because
Oh
otherwise
yes,
it's
no, we're not.
tail
Yeah,
ends.
no, I'm not. I'm not posting this until it's done.
So as you mentioned, Division One, January 29th through 31st, Kissimmee Chain, April 1st through the 3rd, Lake Eufaula in Alabama, April 30th through May 2nd, Lake Norman, August 20th through the 22nd, Lake Erie, like you said, out of Buffalo. And then Division Two, February 19th through the 21st, Sam Rayburn, April 23rd through the 25th, Grand Lake, May 20th through the 22nd, Pickwick, and June 18th through the 20th, Upper Mississippi River.
So that's a couple interesting things there. We've got three events before early May for Division One, with an August event to end it in a new venue that we haven't been to in a long time. So I call it new. If it's been 5 years and we haven't been there, it's new. And then we've got um, the other division starting in February and ending in June. Mississippi River being June will be something a little different. We've had, I believe I wrote it down like Todd Faircloth's elite win, Tommy Biffle's elite win, Ishman Rose elite win. Those were all early season events. Since the split, we've done August for the Mississippi River. So getting the back to there in June, you'll see some different fishing for sure. But quick takeaways there before we get into what else is new for the opens for this schedule. So my first thing, my takeaway, I love that Lake Norman and Pickwick are on the schedule. Those are my home lake and my two favorite lakes in the country. Uh, Mid to late May for Pickwick should be awesome. Late April for Lake Norman, fantastic as well. So those are two of my takeaways.
Yeah. So for me, I think the biggest takeaway is when you look at each division, like there's so much diversity. You know, when you look at Division One, obviously starting in Florida, ending in New York, just alone, and then right in the middle of that, obviously Lake Eufaula at a time of the year where I think the weights could be really good. You could see a lot of different
Absolutely.
styles of fishing, and then Lake Norman, you know, being just vastly different than the previous two tournaments in the sense that you're not talking about, you know, massive, you know, weights by any means, but obviously a numbers game doing, you know, the shallow
Spawn
deal
should
there.
be in
Yeah,
play.
I was about to say the time of the year should allow for spawn and, you know, obviously you know, maybe a little bit of buzz bait, different things in there. Could be a really fun event. I
I
like
might
Norman
I
as
might get
well.
into I might sign up and fish it. I don't know.
Yeah, I like Norman a lot as well, just because it reminds me a lot of the lake I grew up fishing, and
Yep.
so I'm all with you there. Division two, same thing. Obviously, Rayburn early in the year. Obviously,
We know the concerns of what
yeah,
the
I was about to
weather.
say,
There's
like,
two on here that are really concerning with a possible, cancellation day or postponing day, and that's Erie for Division One, and that's Rayburn for Division Two. And so let's just hope that one division is not plagued with that. And if that was to happen, it's only one in each division that's affected.
and then Grand Lake.
But both of those could be closing in on 75 pounds if you
Yeah,
get to go
I
3 days. Like
I was gonna say.
smallmouth, yeah.
The risk might be worth the reward as far as how good the fishing would be at both of those places at the time of the year. I mean, obviously we know the weights that the Rayburn pre-spawn early in the year can put out, so that should be a ton of fun there. Grand Lake late in April, I love that. I had the opportunity to fish Grand a lot at that time of the year. In
Let's
college.
not be the bad week. There's always one
Yeah,
bad week
yeah.
in April.
It's just the weirdest.
Not the
It's the weirdest thing. You and I talked about it, but like it seems like Grand has this bizarre thing, and maybe it doesn't anymore, but like it definitely did when I was in school. It's like it'll have like this period of like a week or so where it's like time of the year is great, like conditions can be great, everything can be great, but like the lake just does not perform well at all. And then like just the snap of your fingers, like the next week it becomes like the greatest lake in the country. Like catching numbers, catching quality, like 3 to 5 pounders frequently. Like I think that time of the year, like we will be very lucky there. I think end of April, anywhere in the Ozarks area, like I genuinely generally think that that's going to be a really fun tournament. And then, like you said, Pickwick in May, that could be awesome. And then Upper Mississippi River earlier in the year, definitely going to, provide a little bit difference from what we've seen in the Elite Series tournaments there the last few years.
So the new change as well for 2026 for the Opens, people were already speculating as soon as you announced the Elite Series forward facing sonar changes is, well, what's this mean for high school, college, nation, team, Opens? And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. This took us long enough to get this one out. We'll figure it out from here. And so because the Opens is the direct feeder to the Classic and to the Elite Series, for the most part, it is going to be a 50-50 split. But Bass officials chose the way that the 50 are split for the regular season of the Opens. When we get to the EQs, could possibly be a coin flip between those three events as well. You flip one for the first two to see which ones has forward, which one doesn't, and then the last one gets its own coin flip. So it could be one without it, two with it. It could be two with it, or without it and one with it, type of thing. There will
Right.
be a 1-to-2 ratio for the EQs, but it is four with and four without for the 8 Opens. And so the way we were told from Bass officials is that they went not chronologically if you stacked all of them up in the calendar, but division by division. We started one division without forward facing sonar and then went every other. So, first event, no. Second, yes, no. Fourth, yes. Then the other division is first, yes, no. Third, yes. Fourth one is no. And so the way that reflects in the schedule is Lake Toho will be, and the Kissimmee chain will be without forward facing sonar, along with Lake Norman will be without forward facing sonar. So you kind of get right here reaction wise, and then Eufaula, Alabama, and Erie would be yeses. So you are going to take a fishery that it may not have factored on in Florida, and it's without, guaranteeing that it won't. Then you took a fishery that is dominated most times of the year with it. Maybe not during that late spawn, but it could be the tough week, and it would be dominated with it, and you make it without with Norman. So that's my first takeaway. Smallmouth, you're going to see just awesome on Erie. If we get 3 days out of there, you follow Alabama, like you said, time of year with it could be pretty wild. So the Kissimmee chain without forward facing sonar, you follow Alabama with forward facing, Norman without, Erie with. Your reactions for Division One?
I like it. I mean, I think that like you said, I think you said it best when you're looking at Kissimmee Chain. Naturally, I think that's the one tournament on the schedule you would think you'd need it less. Not to say that, like we all know, like obviously Florida fishing, like especially that time of the year, like pre-spawn offshore is still going to play. And I think you can do that with or without. So I mean, I still think that's going to be, a possibility. But also, you're talking about Florida. I think that just your natural reaction, first reaction is like, well, it's not going to be a killer to not have it there. Again, there'll be some that,
I
obviously
think
would
that's
prefer to have it,
I
but
think the biggest killer there is if you go to a fishery where you don't expect it to dominate and it does, it rips your heart out a little more if you were hoping to
sure.
see Florida or, Mississippi River or something like that. You wouldn't want it to be one there if you were a traditionalist and you wanted to see the frogs and the other things come into play. Or
For
you wanted to
sure.
see 12-pound bags, whichever one you want to see.
I mean, then you follow, obviously, I think you could see a mixture of both, with using it and without using it based on the time of the year. Obviously, you can certainly catch them shallow there that time of the year.
Muddy
Also, like,
water or back of a creek.
yeah, and we know, brush piles obviously play there. All right, Casey Ashley.
I
Um,
was waiting to see if you got that. Good, good.
so, offshore fishing obviously going to be a big tool to use there, but also being that it's in April, obviously shallow should play as well. It is a target rich environment on Lake Eufaula. Norman not having it, I think that time of the year doesn't really hurt my feelings by any means, just because again, like when I think Norman, I think like fishing shallow, fishing docks, throwing a buzzbait, throwing a popper. That's still
And you
relatively
do
early
think
in the year.
spotted bass and clear water, so
Sure.
there's the possibility for sure.
For sure. I mean, wacky rigs, jigs, things like that. I mean, I think that in my mind, at least, that one doesn't hurt my feelings too bad. And then, like, the reality of it is, like, basically anybody, whether you're for or against it, if you're fishing the event and it's a smallmouth event, like, you probably want it. So I think that most everybody would be pleased with that. So those are my reactions, I think, generally. But I think that just overall, I think this is the most appropriate way to do it. Being every other one and then starting one division with it and
A
starting one
decision's
division
got to
without
be
it.
made. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
If it's hard enough to pull 100 elite guys, we ain't pulling 297 opens anglers, between the divisions. So, Bass officials made that call. So Division Two now, we said it started without in Division One, which means it starts with. So Sam Rayburn will have forward facing sonar. Grand Lake will not have forward facing sonar. Pickwick will have forward facing sonar, and Mississippi River will not. So Rayburn and Pickwick, yes. Grand Lake, Mississippi River, no. So that's your four for Division Two. Definitely some possibilities of huge weights with the ones that do have it, Rayburn and Pickwick, that mid-May ledge offshore deal, and Rayburn that February time period. So we'll keep an eye on those for being heavyweight events. Grand is one of those. If you didn't like that the Classic that time of the year was used with forward-facing sonar 2024, you get your dose of it here. And it will not be a player there. And Mississippi River, we know that the Black River, you could make a top 10 in the elites fishing in there. Um, but it did not win it, and it won't have a chance to win it in the Open either.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think that, you look at the two tournaments that have it between Rayburn and Pickwick, certainly tournaments that it'll be used in those two for sure. So I mean, good for the anglers, of course, fishing that one. But and then Grand, like you said, I think Grand not having it, I was a fan of, just like I mentioned earlier, having fished there a decent amount in college. I think that time of the year will allow guys to not really need it as much as they might have, let's say, if the tournament was in June, or if it was, like you said, classic time frame in March or February. So and then Upper Mississippi River, obviously we saw um, obviously not going to be as much of a factor as a lot of tournaments. So,
And let's
given the
preface when
fact
we
that it would
say
split, like I definitely think it worked out as well as it could, given the fact that, like you said, you had to make a decision and intertwine them somehow, some way, starting one division with, one division out or without. I think it worked out well actually with the schedule.
yeah, and when you were saying like you might not need it at Grand Lake, let's just preface this. There are some fisheries in the country that you would need forward-facing sonar to catch them. They just don't have them. It's just not a good fishery. You need it to catch them. But when we say it like that time of the year, you won't need it to catch it. if you're fishing a tournament and it's allowed, of course you need it. Like you don't need to be silly and not have it. But when it's not allowed, when you say, well, you don't need it that time of the year, it should that translates to our talk as, well, you don't need it to have a good event. That's what we're saying is you don't need it at Grand. Well, it's not allowed at Grand, but it should be great fishing if it's not that one tough week where everything in the lake suspends and mixes together and you get, just some terrible conditions. Um, it's far enough away from March that that's a possibility, but we just don't know how Northeast Oklahoma is. So when Kyle's saying that, I know that's what he's translating to is it should still be a good fishing tournament without.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
the same way with an A-rig. Like if you fish a tournament with that
Yeah.
allows an A-rig, like even when it's not a time of the year where you might throw an
You
A-rig, you
need
probably
to
have
bring
to be
one.
honest.
Yeah.
Like you're probably gonna have one tied on.
Yeah. I didn't turn my graph on all day. Well, I don't know why you're letting everyone know that you made a bad decision today. Like, I don't know why we're doing that. Kyle, to wrap up the 8 events, obviously the EQs will be declared later and the coin flip will be later for that if that's the route that they do choose. But for our 8 event St. Croix Bassmaster Open season for 2026, hit me with that schedule.
Division One, January 29th through 31st, Kissimmee chain.
Without forward facing sonar.
Also Division One, April 1st through the 3rd, Lake Eufaula in Alabama.
Yes, it will have forward facing.
April 30th through May 2nd, Lake Norman.
Does not have forward facing.
August 20th through the 22nd, Lake Erie.
Yes, it will have forward facing.
On to Division Two, February 19th through the 21st, Sam Rayburn.
Yes, it does have forward facing.
April 23rd through the 25th, Grand Lake.
No, it does not have forward facing.
May 20th through the 22nd, Pickwick.
Yes, it does have forward facing.
June 18th through the 20th, Upper Mississippi River.
No, it does not have forward facing sonar. So there's your 8 events, 2026. That's the decision that was made. Do not know right now what the trickle down will be. I can honestly see this, just speculation. I can see that our other levels, college and high school, do not need a change necessarily. You could go, and then when you step up to the opens, you now have to emulate what the classic, and the Elite Series rules will be. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But 2026 St. Croix Bassmaster Opens, 8 events, 4 with forward facing, 4 without. We will also get into live coverage at a later date when those dates are set and those things are confirmed. We will know what programming we will have, but it should be a great 2026 season. Balanced schedule already. Some big time fisheries that we like to see on the schedule that we haven't in a while, and should make for a great year to qualify for the 2027 Bassmaster Elite Series. So, Kyle, that's looking ahead farther in the distance. But let's look ahead real quick, 1 week out from now at the first EQ event of the year, Lake Champlain. We've got 3 EQ events to declare the Elite Series field finalized basically with the Opens qualifiers. And we've got basically 100 anglers fishing for 10 spots. Champlain, mid-September, Wheeler, early October, I believe. And then you have Lake Okeechobee, mid-November. Lake Champlain coming up. Should be a good one, with some of the best in the world at the semi-pro level making a jump up.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about it all year long. I think of the entire season, like the entire 2025 calendar year, one of the things I've been most excited about is the EQs. Obviously, getting the top 50 anglers from each division. Obviously, the Elite Series anglers there's a handful that just want to fish them that are not, not going to requalify, that have already qualified for the Classic. They're just fishing them for fun. Then you have guys that, obviously didn't requalify for the 2026 season, trying to regain
Currently, yeah.
qualification for the 2026 Elite Series season. And then you have some guys that just want to try to qualify for the Classic, that are fishing these events just with the hope of winning one and making the Classic. And I just think that all those storylines combined in a 3 tournament schedule where your diversity of fisheries, I don't know that you could do much better as far as that's concerned when you're talking about a Champlain that should be an absolute slugfest, a northern, fishery, smallmouth going to play, largemouth should play as well. And then Wheeler Lake, traditional fall type grinder, April or August, or excuse me, October 2nd through the 4th. I think that like that's going to be your traditional fall style tournament. And then obviously Okeechobee,
Man, that's a wild card with the water level being as low
100%.
as it is, and then it being November. Like, if that water comes up, Kyle, just a little bit, those fish will be like, I'm going to start getting ready to spawn.
Yeah, that tournament could be anything to where like you could honestly, I know September and upstate New York is vastly different than September in the South, but like you could almost make the argument that you're going to get like a summer, fall, spring tournament in the span of 3 months. Now, again, I understand it's a little more complex than
Yeah,
that.
summer,
Uh,
fall,
for-
pre-spawn.
yeah, exactly. But I just think that the three tournaments, the diversity that each of them provides, is really gonna, get the best anglers possible to
Hey,
qualify.
next year we're going to have one in Michigan, one in Mexico, and one in South Africa. So it's just, we're going to have, no, I'm just kidding. I didn't, Hank, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Should be a good one. Still solidifying who our elite guest will be in studio to commentate that with me. But it should be a good start to the Opens year. I'm excited about that. And I know those 100 anglers all are normally fighting for a big goal, but it's even more amped up now that the points are reset. Everyone's on a level playing field. 9 days left in the season, 6 guaranteed days. We got it. They're going to be going for it. So
We
should be
are.
great. New changes for 2026 for the Opens. We just went through the schedule. There'll be more details. Check out the release. If you are watching this right now, it's been announced and you can read more info at bassmaster.com. Click the tournament tab, click the Opens if it's not on the homepage, and it will be right there for the viewing. So until next time, Kyle, it's good to see you, bud.